In the early hours of February 4th, 2018, Amtrak Silver Star passenger train number 91 powers through Cayce, South Carolina, 4 miles southwest of the state capital, Columbia. On board the southbound Silver Star are 8 crew members and 139 passengers, traveling overnight from New York City to Miami. The train is running along the Columbia subdivision, a mostly single-tracked freight corridor used primarily by freight trains, but also shared with long-distance passenger services. A short distance ahead, on the siding, another train is waiting for the Amtrak to pass. A CSX freight train consisting of empty auto-rack car carriers used to transport new vehicles. Inside the CSX freight train, an engineer and 1 conductor wait patiently for the Amtrak to pass on the main line. At around 2:35 a.m., Amtrak Silver Star train number 91 approaches the northern end of the siding near Cayce, with clearance to pass on the main line at around 55 miles per hour. However, instead of remaining on the main line to pass safely, train number 91 unexpectedly turns onto the siding and is now heading directly toward the freight train. The crew reacts instantly, applying the brakes and sounding the horn, but at this speed and distance, there is no chance of stopping. From their parked locomotive, the CSX crew sees the headlights approaching and immediately jump from the cab windows and run to safety. At approximately 52 miles per hour, the Silver Star collides with the freight train, and in a matter of seconds, a routine overnight journey becomes a tragedy. As a result of the collision, the Amtrak locomotive and several passenger cars derail. Tragically, both the engineer, Michael Kemp, and the conductor, Michael Chella, are killed when the front of their locomotive is destroyed in the impact. The leading locomotive of the freight train is severely damaged, its fuel tanks rupture, spilling an estimated 5,000 gallons of fuel. Inside the passenger cars, dozens of people are injured. Some are thrown from their seats, while others are struck by debris and falling luggage. In total, 116 passengers and crew members are injured. Firefighters, police, and paramedics arrive within minutes, while hazardous materials teams work to contain the fuel spill. Injured passengers are taken to local hospitals, and those who are unhurt are transported to a nearby school converted into a temporary shelter. 2 lives have been lost, more than 100 people are injured, and a major passenger train lies in wreckage. So, what had led to this critical chain of events? How did the Amtrak train end up on the same siding as the freight train? On the 3rd of February 2018, Amtrak Silver Star train number 91 had departed New York City bound for Miami. The Silver Star is one of Amtrak's longest-running services, operating along the eastern seaboard since 1947. The journey from New York to Florida takes around 31 hours, covers over 1,500 miles, and carries passengers through Washington, Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia, and then on to Florida. After an uneventful first half of its journey, the Silver Star entered South Carolina in the early hours of February 4th. Near Cayce, maintenance crews have been working to upgrade the signaling system with the installation of Positive Train Control. Positive Train Control is an automated safety system designed to monitor train movements and to stop trains automatically when there's a risk of collision with another train or when a train is traveling too fast. However, to complete this work, the signals in the area and automated control of the turnout points had been temporarily disabled. This meant that trains could no longer rely on automatic signals in the area. Train movements had to be authorized by radio, and dispatchers at train control had to verify the position of all trains manually. Being a single-track line where trains travel in both directions on the same track, Safe operation depended almost entirely on human accuracy, and a mistake could be deadly. Working in the Cayce area that night was a CSX freight crew. A consist of empty auto-rack rail cars was positioned on the siding, waiting to be connected to a locomotive. A two-man CSX crew of one engineer and one conductor would reverse their locomotive into the siding to link up with the wagons. The engineer would reverse the locomotive into the siding, while the conductor would manually operate the turnout points owing to the signaling system being down for the upgrade. Once the locomotives were on the siding, the conductor would return the points to the main line, ready for the Amtrak Silver Star to pass by later. However, the CSX conductor, after the locomotive passed over the points onto the siding, forgot to set the points back to the main line. Once back in the locomotive, and asked by the engineer if he had set the points to the main line, the conductor said that he thought he had, but wasn't completely sure, and suggested shining the headlights onto the points to check. When the lights couldn't reach the turnout points, neither man walked down to check. With the signaling lights disabled, the mistake went unnoticed. However, there was one final line of defense. With the signaling system out of service, responsibility shifted to the dispatcher at train control. Before authorizing any movement, the dispatcher was required to confirm that the points were correctly aligned for the main line. In practical terms, that meant contacting the CSX freight crew for verification. This never happened. Without confirmation that the points were set, the dispatcher cleared Amtrak Silver Star train number 91 to proceed past the siding at Cayce. The stage was now set for tragedy. At around 2:35 a.m., Amtrak Silver Star train number 91, carrying 139 passengers, expecting to pass by the siding, suddenly turned onto it and slammed head-on into the freight train. The Amtrak engineer and conductor, through no fault of their own, sadly lost their lives, while the CSX crew had jumped out their windows moments before impact. The investigation into the tragedy was conducted by the National Transportation Safety Board, alongside the Federal Railroad Administration and CSX Transportation. Investigators examined the wreckage, recovered data recorders, interviewed crew members, and analysed operating procedures in place during the signal suspension. No mechanical fault was found. The failure was obvious: procedure and human error. In July of 2019, the NTSB released the final report into the accident. It concluded the following. Both Amtrak and CSX failed to properly manage the risks of trains operating during a signal outage. The CSX conductor failed to reset the points, and the dispatcher failed to verify that he had done it. And in tragic irony, the signal outage had been put in place to install positive train control, a system designed to prevent accidents of this very nature. The NTSB issued recommendations calling for improved training, better procedures, and systems to prevent critical tasks from being forgotten. No criminal charges were ever filed against the CSX crew involved in the crash. Federal investigators identified serious failures but lacked the power to impose punishment. Both CSX and Amtrak faced lawsuits from injured passengers and the families of the victims, although I was unable to find the outcomes of those lawsuits. Following the collision, Amtrak Locomotive 47 and CSX Locomotive 130 were both scrapped, while CSX Locomotive 36 returned to service. The Cayce collision remains a reminder that even modern railways still depend on human discipline. When systems are offline, checks are skipped, and assumptions take their place, routine operations can turn fatal. 2 experienced crew members lost their lives, more than 100 people were injured, all because one switch was left in the wrong position. That's all for today's video. If you found value in it, I'd love it if you subscribed and joined me for the next one. To watch another of my train disasters, you can click the link on screen. And as always, thanks for watching.